Hello to the chicos and the chicas. Welcome back. Today concludes the World Cup and therefore my reviews as well on the channel. I don't really think it's a spoiler anymore. Everyone knows what happened. Magnus Carlsen has completed his incredible chess career by winning the World Cup and thus putting that proverbial final feather on his hat. There is nothing that this man hasn't won, and that definitely does make him the GOAT of chess. A super impressive performance. Let's have a look at the way how it all unfolded today during the playoff, the rapid matches. Magnus started with the black pieces, and of course he relied on his favorite e4, e5, the most solid weapon of many of the current elite, actually. The opening was a very quiet Italian, and there was nothing really to mention in the opening. It was all fine and logical. The position is very much in balance, and then hereabouts something very curious happened. I didn't really have the time to analyze it, but after knight h5, queen g5, Magnus played g6, which apparently is really well met by this surprising retreat knight hf3. I suspect that queen h6, knight g5 is on the cards, and therefore f6 I think may be forced. And then queen h4 goes back, but now this bishop is quite alive. The knight is a little bit silly. Overall, it still feels after bishop e6 that black's position is safe and sound, but here comes the man with the center, baby. That's where you need to strike. And once you strike in the center, this is now becoming quite dirty. This would have been Praggnanddhaa's big chance to pull ahead, but instead the game turned a very different direction, or rather followed a very different direction, because Praggnanddhaa responded to the mistake with a mistake of his own with knight f5, allowing immediately Magnus to bail out with bishop f5, ef5 and king g7. A seemingly counterintuitive move, but of course king g7 beautifully secures the f6 square, and now the blockade will be rebuilt one way or another, even with the queen. And now Praggnanddhaa's kingside initiative or central initiative is gone, and all we have now is an endgame where I actually prefer black, and in fact the engine does too. The reason for that is that the center is very strong. It's uncontested. The pawn has moved to the side, and so now it's definitely all about Magnus. And boy oh boy, did the world champion impress. This take was, I think, still played in the spirit of draw is good enough, I will try to win with white. Otherwise, I think Magnus would have preferred to keep the tension with rook a d8. But even here, it is crystal clear that black has no problems whatsoever. There was an easy draw to be had here with knight takes e4. I will show you this line because it's quite fascinating, actually. Knight takes, rook takes, rook takes, rook takes, rook takes. And then king h6, and white can't take the knight because of the back rank Matutsky. And otherwise, black's pieces are very active after king g1, knight f5, although this one is hanging, but the very active rook-knight combo is definitely going to prove to be sufficient enough for at least a draw. But this is where Magnus shines, and this is where Magnus is probably more dominant than in any other area, and that is just equal endgames. Keep on playing moves. Let's see what happens. And he dropped the knight back to g8, a really ugly move, but he has time to recover with rook d7, securing the f7 pawn, then move the knight, and then move the other knight as well. And that is precisely what he did. Rook d7, rook e7, and now the knight was good to go to d7. Now this has a potential route to f4, and the other one also can keep an eye on that crucial square. So rook a8 was played to cover the a5 pawn and g4. Now that is an ugly move, because with the bishop being on c2, we already have 2 pawns on white fixed, and that creates a further weak square on f4 and the potential third pawn to be fixed on the color of the bishop. If anything, I would have played g3 really with that pawn if the idea was to create a luft for the king. Yeah, that was a weird one. I think that this was the point when Praggnanddhaa started to feel the time pressure. Of course, he wants to go to g5, but yeah, this was a bit of an iffy plan. Magnus falters here too. Knight f6 was desired. when it turns out that provoking g5 is good for black because of the previously mentioned maneuver. But having said that, I did like f6 too, because it created a very solid position that Magnus really excels at, where there is easy logical positional plans. I mean, look at this knight here, knight here, knight here, knight here, knight here. That definitely keeps you busy for the next few moves. So g5 was played, take, and knight f7. There you go. And don't forget that even though we traded these pawns, the f4 square is still on the menu. Knight f6, knight h5, knight f4. Sounds like a broken record, I know, but this is what is exactly coming. Look, rook f6, take, and this is the moment, I think, when a lot of people started to think that Magnus is actually potentially going to run away with this one, despite the 000 evaluation. The reason for that is because at this point Praggnanddhaa was down to 1 minute, whereas Magnus is 3, and the position is hard to play. Because black has all the easy moves. 19, 19, rook across, other 19, and all of a sudden that's 3 raging black pieces. Very tough grind. King f8 was played to come to e7 to deny even the d6 penetration, and now we are good to go. Rook h8, rook e2. I really didn't understand this move. Like, if I'm white here, I'm already super worried about this. And so putting the rook on e2 to allow this to come with a big fat tempo, I don't know, somehow it felt weird. King g1, knight f4, rook back to d2, and the rook h3, very nice piece activation, and there is a knight coming to g5 as well. The engine still says that the advantage is minuscule, tiny, 0.28 to black's favor. Yet I feel like if you give this position with the same amount of time to white and black is gonna be Magnus and white is whoever, Maggie is gonna put this away all the time, every time, because it's just such an easy game to play. And again, the Indian GM falters under the time pressure. Bishop d1 was the only move according to the machine, but even here after rook c3 followed by knight g5, misery is the only thing that awaits. a6 was terrible. It's simply a free pawn, and after bishop a4, now the black pieces invade. Although rook c3 was condemned by the computer, it's perfectly fine. Knight g5 was the cleanest win, when after knight e5, I think king e6 just wins on the spot, because, yeah. Knight is hanging and knight f3 check is incoming, so there is nothing to be done. Magnus tried to kick the knight first and then play knight g5. Essentially not much of a difference. The engine wanted here rook c2, still keeping white somewhat in the game, I suppose. But yeah, now it is just carnage. The two knights actually create a beautiful checkmate net around the white king, and now comes the dagger, rook a3, which hits the bishop and threatens with mate on a1. Knight c6 was played, the spy check, but after king f6, Praggnanddhaa had nothing else left but to resign. And from here on out, Magnus was in business mode. With the white pieces, he rocked up with e4, c5, c3 for the second time, playing the Alapin Sicilian. And he actually uncorked this variation, d6 take castles, which may look familiar to many of you from a certain chessable course. The Beginners 1e4 repertoire by yours truly actually features this very position. Look, ta-da! I reckon Maggie is studying my courses, ladies and gentlemen. Exact same story, just played d5, beautiful, and that's what Magnus did too. By the way, I did lose a game in this line with black back in the day against fellow Aussie Grandmaster David Smurden, and so I remembered very, very well to not to play this bishop f5 business ever again. And to be fair, it was super easy cruising from Magnus's point of view. d5 is best, and here black is struggling big time. Praggnanddhaa decided to sack a pawn on e6. And at this point, if Magnus wanted to actually push for a win, he 100% would have played here rook d1, which would have led to a very easy position for white. I'm just gonna say that I'm not gonna say it's winning, The engine reckons it's about plus 1.1, 1.2 thereabouts. But it's super easy to see that the e6 is tragically weak. The black pieces are poorly coordinated. Yucky. Don't go there, folks. Don't go there. But since Magnus only needed a draw, he just went caveman trade, 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 and trade. And at this point, Praggnanddhaa offered a draw. I mean, after rook e1, there is absolutely nothing left in this position. In fact, white is still pushing for a win because the knight on b6 is really, really poorly placed and has no real chance to re-enter the fray immediately, which means that rook e7 is a very dangerous threat. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, Magnus rightfully, right after his victory, tweeted chess ? Completed. Quite remarkable. Indeed, he has won everything. World champion, classical world champion, World Cup winner, Blitz world champion, Rapid world champion. I don't know. The only thing he didn't win was the Hungarian under-18 junior championship. So hopefully that's going to keep him in the game. Speaking of which, on a more serious note, the only reason why I didn't want Magnus to win this tournament, and I'm not being a negative Nancy, is because I genuinely fear that tonight might have been the last time we saw Magnus Carlsen playing over the board chess, at least for long time control games. I know that tonight wasn't long time control because it was the playoff, but the tournament was long time control. And yeah, I really seriously am worried that we might not see Magnus play again classical chess over the board, which would be very sad, but it is a complete career, a beautiful career, without a doubt, the GOAT of chess. So congratulations to Magnus Carlsen. And on that note, although I haven't covered any games, I think, oh yeah, I did actually cover one pawn ending story from the ladies, but we must mention, of course, that Goryachkina took out the ladies tournament, so congratulations to her too. And yeah, back to business, back to chess coaching, back to exciting tournaments. So yeah, thanks guys for watching me. Thanks for checking this video out. Once again, congrats to Magnus, and I will see you in the next video. Don't forget to sub, to like, and to comment. Thanks again. Cheerio. Bye.